All right, welcome to this show, everyone. My name is Mark. I am your host. And today on the show, I've got a very special guest. It's Clay F., the author of the Sarcastic Big Book of AA. Clay, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be here.
Well, I'm honored to have you here so we can talk about this fantastic book that you've written. And to kick us off, I've got the recovery band. Kick us, boys. Yeah, you like that funk? And I even brought with a studio audience.
Oh, I love that.
All right, standing ovation. It's good for the ego.
So much. Thank you so much.
Well, Clay,
All of you.
Clay, first off, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to do service and to discuss this and discuss your journey in this book.
I'm happy to do it. I'm thrilled to have been asked.
Awesome. Well, so first off, I want to, I don't know anything about you. So how long have you been doing recovery?
I have been sober since 1989.
Since 89. Wow. And that's continuous.
Yes, continuous.
Awesome.
This year, I will be 35 years sober.
Awesome. That is incredible. Congratulations. And
yeah.
And so what brought you into recovery?
So I started drinking when I was 9 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I drank pretty regularly when I was around 11. Started using drugs around then too. Started smoking glue. Started smoking pot. But I really loved alcohol. And my family left the state that I was living in. Not invited. Just to fast forward quickly through it all. I've been on my own since I was 17. Was homeless. Was a daily blackout drinker. And I loved to drive. And lots of problems with the law. Unemployable. Living in my car. And I flatlined from alcohol poisoning. And that is essentially the only reason I did the steps. That's the only reason I went to AA. I did not want to go to AA.
Mm-hmm.
But I had been sober since I was 18.
Yeah. Yeah. So you said you didn't want to go to AA. What was the resistance of going?
I mean, I was an atheist. I didn't want to look at myself. I wasn't angry at, I hated the world. I hated the people in it. I hated my family. I hated myself. And the very last thing I wanted to do was stop drinking. The resistance was I didn't want to stop drinking, and I didn't want to. My plan was never to stop drinking. I wanted to drink for the rest of my life. I wanted to be drunk forever. I loved drinking. Can I cuss on this show?
Yeah, you can do whatever you want. Sky's the limit on this show. Yeah.
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 So the resistance was that I didn't want to stop. I didn't want to do the steps. I just had no other place to go.
Yeah. And so did you end up doing treatment beforehand, or did you just go straight into the program of AA?
No, I was penniless. And treatment wasn't like it is now. I mean, I don't think I would have done well in treatment anyway. If I had one other option other than to do the steps, I would have done that instead. If I had a bed to lay on or someone to, somebody gave me a cigarette. I mean, if I had one other option, if I was going to treatment, to me, that's another option. I would have just bullshit my way through that. And hooked up with people and done the bare minimum and manipulated the shit out of everyone. To me, that was just another way of delaying doing the steps.
Yeah.
I would have never done it.
So what was your first AA meeting like? What was it? What was your story of your walking into your first meeting?
Well, the first meeting I went to, I don't remember because I started going when I was drinking. I was going to meetings drinking for years, and I don't remember very much about them because my girlfriend and I would get in trouble we'd steal a car, we get be sent to AA. Our mom was in AA, so we get busted and sent there on a regular basis. So, but the first sober memory I have of an AA meeting, I remember very vividly. I was sitting down and there was a guy standing up behind me, and he was screaming at the meeting, "Fuck you guys! Fuck you! You're all full of shit. This is bullshit. You're all liars!"
Wow.
And then and he went off for a few minutes. He's standing up behind me, and then everybody, when he's done, everybody clapped and said, "Thanks, John."
Wow. Wow. They let him have his rant.
I was like, where am I?
Yeah. Now, did you hear things like get a sponsor and do the steps? Like what was suggested to you that got you started on this path?
Yeah, I would start to hear those things. I mean, at the time I was not capable of listening for more than 5 seconds to anything. I was so in my head about life and my fears and everything, and I didn't know what the hell was going on. And I would make myself go to meetings, and I would go to more and more of them, and I had to sit in the parking lot and dig deep and decide whether or not I was going to go into the meeting or not. And sometimes I did, sometimes I didn't. If there was somebody there that, and then I would hear people talk about sponsors, and I knew after about a month that I was going to drink. I had a spiritual awakening at one of my first meetings, and even after that, I knew I was going to drink unless I got a sponsor.
Yeah. What was that awakening? What was that awakening like for you? Like what kind of awakening was it?
Oh, it was a powerful, it was like Bill Wilson describes. It was like a hot flash spiritual experience.
Oh, wow.
I sat in my car right after a meeting, and it happened about as briefly as the space between these two claps.
Wow.
And this bouquet of fingers of blame that I had pointed at the world turned around, pointed at me. I knew there was a God. I knew it wasn't me, and I knew I could never explain it to anyone. But in that very moment, right then and there, I had no doubt in my mind there was a God, and I knew nothing about that except it wasn't me, and it was obviously good because I had done nothing to deserve that experience.
Wow. Wow, that's beautiful. That's amazing. So you ended up getting a sponsor, and you ended up going through the steps. And what was your step process like?
So my sponsor, it took me a while to find a sponsor, because I had to find a sponsor who was not a bullshit artist like me. And I wanted to find somebody who sounded the same way outside of meetings as they did in meetings.
Mm-hmm.
And I would find people who sounded really good in a meeting. In the parking lot, they were totally different people. And I knew that I needed somebody who was not like that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I can identify with that because I remember looking for a sponsor, and before I ended up meeting a couple people in A that says, well, how do you know what you want if you don't know what you want? And they directed me on kind of how to find a sponsor and to find the right one for me. And I knew that I wanted somebody that walked the walk and talk the talk, both sides of it, like somebody. And I ended up finding a gentleman, that was the same way outside of meetings as he was inside of meetings. But what you were talking about that journey, I remember I was looking for a sponsor, and I heard this guy talking in meetings, and I thought he was really good. And he was talking about the book, this and that. And then one day before the meeting, like I was trying to get him to sponsor me. He was kind of resistant to it. And he comes in and sits down next to me one day before the meeting, and he's just like, yeah, I'm pretty upset today. And the guy next to him was like, well, what's going on? And he's like, yeah, this guy accused me of taking his spot at Walmart. So I got out and keyed his car when he went into the store. And I'm like, I don't think I want that guy to sponsor me.
Exactly.
Yeah. And yeah, I've learned that it's easier to, in the beginning or somewhere like there's people that talk it and there's people that walk it.
No, I knew what I wanted. I knew I needed somebody who would actually demonstrate what is in the book to me. And I knew I needed somebody who I just needed that was bigger than my bullshit.
Yeah.
And I sought him out. He didn't chase me. I chased him. I wanted these people who see their sponsor once a week. I don't understand. I needed redirection every 30 seconds. I sought my sponsor out a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you built a strong relationship with your sponsor.
I did.
That's great. What was like the most profound step for you?
I would say I really had my spiritual awakening because I had done step 3 and not realized it.
Yeah.
I mean, I really surrendered. I really made a decision to turn my will and life over to whatever that power was.
Yeah.
I was humble for about 3 seconds.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
And I've been trending there ever since.
That's it.
That was the most powerful moment. And I would say after that, I had a really powerful experience in step 5. I had a powerful experience in step 4. I had a powerful experiences in step 9. I mean, I had a lot of really powerful experiences.
That's beautiful. Yeah, those experiences, I think about like growth and recovery, and without those experiences, those powerful experiences, and just kind of not knowing what's going to happen, but accepting what's going to happen in these steps, it's really been good for growth.
Right.
So, let's jump into this a little bit. You have written a book, the Sarcastic Big Book, and I have in my hand the second edition. So was there a first edition to this book?
Yes, there was.
There was. Okay.
There's a first edition that doesn't have the chapters, the sex partners, or in rehab afterward, and it doesn't have the no step prayer.
Okay, so my friends and I in recovery, here's how I got introduced to Sarcastic AA. My buddy Boston Greg, who's done an episode, who's been a good friend of mine since the beginning of recovery, and he introduced me to the Sarcastic AA via Instagram. And then my friend Sarah B, she's like, I ordered this book and it's the Sarcastic AA Big Book. And I was like, that's real? I thought it was just like a photo on Instagram. I was like, this thing's real? And she's like, yeah. And she ordered it and she brought it in and she did a meeting with it. And it was incredible. And I think she ordered the Sarcastic Daily Meditations too.
Yeah.
And so in the beginning, it kind of tells a little bit in the preface about why you have written this book. But instead of me reading that to you, would you tell the story behind what brought this book to actual reality?
Oh gosh, yeah, it was just I don't know. It's a long story.
You're free to tell any amount of it you want.
Where to begin? I wrote one chapter. I guess the origins of it would be, I would be very sarcastic with some of my sponsees, and that would really help them.
Yeah.
I would say, let's look in your book. Actually, it says in your big book that you should fuck whoever you want, whenever you want.
Yeah.
It says that.
Yeah, by all means, don't pray about it. Don't
pray. Definitely don't bring God into that part of your life. Oh, yeah. I think the book says that God's not big enough to solve money things.
Yeah.
I think it says it started kind of that way. And then I wrote I wrote chapter 5.
Oh, are you talking about how it works doing the deal, as you call it in your book?
Doing the deal in the book, yeah. I wrote doing the deal. And what happened was I was leading a men's retreat, about 100 guys. We were up in the mountains, and I got to be what's it called? What do they call that?
The spiritual leader, the speaker, or
I was the retreat host. I was the guy.
Okay.
I led the meeting. I picked the topics. I set the tone. And I thought to myself, I'm gonna try out doing the deal here. gonna
Okay.
I'm gonna kick off this weekend with by reading Doing the Deal. And so I started to read it, and it was silent.
Oh wow.
And it was silent. I mean, it was dying. And
Really?
I was yeah, it was and then I got to step 4, which is what is step 4, and reluctantly
Re-
completed some
yeah,
worksheet that confirms I'm a piece of shit.
yeah, it says step 4 on here. I've got doing the deal open. Okay. Hold on. Before we get to step 4, can I read this one part of it? It
So you
says
can
our
part of it.
stories disclose in a general way how hardcore we used to be and briefly how it's all good now. If you've decided you want what we have and are willing to verbally express that you will go to any lengths to get it, then you are ready to take these steps. And some of these we looked up from our phones and said, fuck that. And step 4 says reluctantly followed some worksheet that confirmed we were pieces of shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what happened when you got to step 4?
They started roaring. And then after that, it was like something went off and they just all, everybody kind of got it. And it really ended up being really powerful. And then that was kind of how it started. And then I was talking to a lot of people in AA, and I was just really inspired to write this and do things with it that I don't want to share. But I started talking to a lot of people in AA about it, old timers, newcomers. People do the steps different ways. And I talked to a couple therapists and had them all proofread this, and we all read it together, a bunch of us, a couple times. And I would think to myself, I can't do this. It's too harsh. It's too mean. But then I would go to a meeting, and that's just what's happening. It's just there's nothing in the Sarcastic Big Book that doesn't happen all the time around me. It's just fucking crazy when you look at it in black and white, but it's what happens all the time around me. And so I would say, I'm not going to do this. And then I would go in the meeting and I'd be like, I have to do this. And then right away, it kind of felt like it wasn't mine anymore, because it just took on a life of its own. There was some people started to have these weekly meetings, and I think it's in the forward to the second edition. There's like Sarcastic Big Book meetings in 3 different countries. It just was so much bigger than me.
It says there's 2 in the United States and 1 in Russia, and I've been to one. Now, I've chaired meetings where I used Danny Falcone's book, The 20 Most Misunderstood, Misinterpreted Mistakes of the Big Books of Alcoholics Anonymous. But I've been to a meeting where my friend Sarah B used the Sarcastic A book, and when she was reading Doing the Deal, I think that's what she read. She's like, this is exactly how I thought about this when I first got into the steps. This was my thinking. And she read Doing the Deal, and I about pissed myself. I was laughing so hard. I was like, I had no idea that this was a thing. And the way that you have this in here, like step 3 is made a decision to go to 90 meetings in 90 days. And this one, actually, there is one in there in the steps that hits me home right here. And it's step 6, and it says, we were entirely ready to have God remove any defects of character that we were still not quietly enjoying. And I laugh at that one because, like, after the first year, right, after the chips were over, after the medallion was over, and I realized that there was no more monthly goals, right? It was just me and my defects of character that I'd still been holding on to and secretly enjoying.
Right.
And,
Yes.
and there was actual real work to be done. And so this year 2, has been so growing. And it's been a lot harder than the first year. So you said that the meeting started roaring. Now, when you shared this book idea with other people in A, what was the response?
It was good. I mean, people were like, are you fucking kidding me? You have to. And I knew right away that not everybody was going to understand it.
Mm-hmm.
I knew not everybody has the ssame love of the big book that I do and the same understanding of the big book that I do. I mean, I'm obsessed with the big book. I love the big book.
Yeah.
And I know that if you really, in my mind, to really appreciate the Sarcastic big book, the more you're familiar you are with the actual big book, the funnier the Sarcastic big book will be, I think. But I knew not everybody was going to get that. Some people wouldn't understand it. And it just, the response was so supportive. And it came out right before the quarantine. So I went right on Zoom, and it's just crazy how universal
Mm-hmm.
the message in the Sarcastic big book is, and how I never went to any of the Sarcastic big book meetings here, but I got to speak at the one in Russia, and it was really surreal, and it was really shocking. And there were 200 people there, and everything had to be translated. They were saying things like, in your book, you say, sponsor, play God. How you recommend? I mean, it was
So they were on board with it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. So you had a translator, so you would speak and then the translator would speak.
Yes. And then somebody would ask me a question, and then the translator would ask it to me. But it was really, but somebody sent me a clip of when it happens here, and it was incredible. I heard about 2 minutes of it, and the guy who was leading the meeting just got it. He just got it. He just understood it. And there was so much joy and so much levity, and actually enhanced the real message so much, which was thrilling.
Yeah. That's, when I look at this book, it takes me to page, 132. We've been speaking to you sometimes of serious, sometimes tragic things. We've been dealing with alcohol in its worst aspect, but we aren't a glum lot. If newcomers could see no joy or fun in our existence, they wouldn't want it. We absolutely insist on enjoying life. And whenever I read this book, like, I get what it's about, and I get the humor behind it. And I'm a big book guy through and through, and I get what it's saying, and it's really powerful.
I love that so much.
Yeah, it's so when you were so did you have input from other people like oh hey you should do this, like, and also too, as you were writing this, you were talking about kind of like, should I do this, I have to do this or whatever. Like, I know sometimes, like, in my alcoholic mind, if I'm trying to succeed in life, sometimes I have trouble, and I've heard other alcoholics say trouble, like, I hold myself back, and and so like,
no, it was like the Sarcastic big book was like it was like a car that pulled up, and I just had to get in, and I just wrote. I wrote it. It was like I could not help but write. It was just something was just taking over, and the input that I got from the outside was just the response. I read it to people, and I got feedback from all kinds of people about it, but really the input mostly came from the therapist, who said, as a therapist, so many people in AA get so fucked up from step 5 from their sponsors trying to do therapeutic work with them. And please put something in the book about that. So there's a paragraph in it that says, I forget exactly what it says, but something about, most sponsors aren't qualified to do this. They're going to pretend they can't.
I have to look exactly kind of where that's at.
Yeah. Well, not all. Have you found it?
What page is it on? Have you found it?
I don't have it with me, but it's during step 5.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, it's into thinking. Yeah. Let's see here. I like that you changed that into thinking. That's phenomenal. Yeah. What was the inspiration about calling it into thinking?
Because that's what happens. I mean, that's just that's just what happens. It's just, let's just talk about our defects and think about our defects and look at our defects and share about our defects and share about our fears and think about, is this going to work and should I do it? And am I going to do it? I think I'm going to do it. I've been procrastinating, but I don't want to, but I'm not doing anything, but it's just so much thinking.
Yeah, it is. It says now it is time to read it aloud to another human being, which when we were finished, which means we've completed step 5 in the program, suggested. Some of us have found the idea of having such an intimate conversation difficult, but don't worry. If you have a good sponsor, they will do most of the talking. Some sponsors will look at this as an opportunity to really dig into another person without seeming like they are mean. If they do talk down to you, they'll probably tell you it's for your own good. You jotted down shit in a notebook for months. That was hard. Now let your sponsor do the digging and searching. Oh, yeah, that is so good. Yeah. Now, I like this. I like this when you're back in a men's over here on page 27. It says most alcoholics owe money, and with a question mark. and so like I see in here like you've redone the 9th step promises. What was the inspiration behind that?
Just, when you write down what actually is common, it's actually it's funny and it's sad.
Okay.
And it actually makes the message more pronounced.
Okay.
Because if the book actually said what it says right there, how fucking sad would that be?
Yeah, it's true. Do you care if I read it to you?
I don't care.
All right. If we have been painstaking about this, we will be kind of bummed that we are a little more than halfway through. We're going to start missing our old freedom and happiness. We will try to forget the past, but we cannot slam the door on it. We may hear about serenity, but still not know peace. No matter how far along we've come, we won't really be sure we can help anyone. That feeling of uselessness and self-pity may reappear. Our self-esteem may slip away. Our old attitude and outlook upon life might remain. We'll avoid people. We will work a ton so we don't have to face economic insecurity. How we're told to handle situations will sometimes baffle us. We will suddenly realize that people are doing things for us we should probably be doing for ourselves. Does any of this sound good at all? These things are happening around us, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. They will always happen if we allow it.
Yeah.
That's pretty well thought through. Can you go a little bit more deeper into that? Like you were talking about if the book had said that, it'd be like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's just, the actual book's message is so beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's not about people telling us what to do and who we should date and where we should work and it's really about this incredible experience of having a relationship and a connection to a higher power that's going to speak to us through intuition and inspirations and hunches. And it says we're going to trust our thinking eventually, and we're going to have not a slight different response to the world, but a tremendous shift in how we view life. And it's just so, I think the actual promises make what happens seem even smaller than it is. I mean, my experience is just literally mind-blowing. And it's just, honestly, just the idea of writing down exactly what happens makes the absurdity of what happens jump out.
Yeah. Now, do you remember when the promises came true in your life?
Oh my God. Oh man. Gosh, so many times. Truly, after I would say I was about 2.5 years sober. And I got the message of the big book that I have today. I went through the big book in a non-linear fashion by subject instead of by chapter or step, and it really kind of blew my mind. And it changed how I applied the steps. It changed my understanding of alcoholism according to the big book. And it really made, it was like that scene in The Wizard of Oz where all of a sudden everything's in color. It was just my life that ever since.
I like how you put that, like it's the Wizard of Oz, and all of a sudden it's in color. And I remember saying that to I can't remember who I was saying it to in the program, but I was like, you never notice how the Wizard of Oz is like the program of recovery?
Yes.
Yeah, it is. And they went down the yellow brick road. They were skipping and happy. It kind of reminds me of like trudging the road of happy destiny.
Yes.
Yeah, and so I like this. So is to the sex partners is basically to the wives, right?
It's the chapter. So yeah, it's the updated version.
It's
just to people we hook up with.
To people okay. Can you tell me the inspiration behind this chapter?
I mean, again, it's just what happens. It's just, that's probably my favorite chapter, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I'm particularly fond of the beginning of that chapter.
Yeah. The first few sentences or the first paragraph in general?
Probably the first page I just really like.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny. To me, it's funny. And it's just so true. I mean, I'm a broken record, but it's just so funny when you write down actually what happens. It's like, this should not happen. This is so fucked up. This is so fucked up, but it just happens all the time. All of the time.
Now, was it like okay, so it says until this chapter, this book has only addressed the alcoholic, but usually the alcoholic whose life is spinning wildly out of control is having sex with at least one person. Strange as it may seem to outsiders, this is actually pretty simple for an alcoholic to find someone to fuck regularly. Now, I've heard about dating, not dating in the rooms. It's like, and my sponsor told me not to date for a year. My sponsor never told me that. He gave me enough rope to hang myself.
Yes, same.
Yeah, yeah, and I had to learn my own lessons with that. But my justification was this, Clay. It was I'm still putting my recovery first.
Yeah, I mean, I did it all wrong. I mean, I did have a sincere desire to let God take me to bed. which, yeah. So when you're doing it here now, it's to the sex partners from like your own personal experience, or is this from other things that you've heard and seen in meetings? Oh, all of it. I mean, there's nothing in the Sarcastic Big Book that I've not experienced or been or are guilty of. Nothing, but I see it all around me, everywhere.
Yeah. Now, the next chapter is in rehab afterward. Can we talk about that chapter a little bit?
Yes, I would love to.
Yeah. Okay. So can you give a brief overview of what that chapter is about and how it came about?
Yeah, I mean, I work in treatment for quite a number of years, and again, it's just what happens on a regular basis. And when you write it down, it looks crazy, but it is normal. Mm-hmm. Everything in that chapter, really something I experience firsthand all the time.
Now, this line hits personal to me. Some new residents make the mistake of listening to what staff members, counselors, and various clinicians have to say about recovery. Don't do this. It is who you should be explaining recovery to them and to anyone who will listen for that matter. This includes fellow residents. And I remember when I got out of treatment, right? I was so mad at them. I was like, they should have told me that I was going to leave on a pink cloud. And, they should have told me that I needed to do the steps, blah, blah, blah. But they did. They were like, go to 90 and 90, get a sponsor, work the program of recovery. And somehow, like, I remember later on down the road, as I started to get restored to sanity, my head actually became clear like 6 months later. I was like, oh yeah, they did tell me that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Are
you that guy who was explaining recovery to them?
Was I that guy?
Yeah.
No. I knew nothing of recovery. I just, but it was funny. We'd sit in treatment and we'd look at the person next to us like, hey, you're keeping me sober today, but we were in a lockdown treatment facility. We couldn't get anything.
Right. Right.
It's like, what, how else am I going to use? I can't leave. This is, let's see here. So A Vision Askew. I like that title a lot. And so can we talk about The Vision Askew? And that one was in the first edition?
Yeah, that's in both.
That's in both?
Yeah.
Okay. Every once in a while, a newcomer says, wow, I feel better. Something's happening, but I can't explain it. I actually have hope. As alcoholics still making things about us, we smile at such a fool. We know the sensation, the pink cloud, and we know it will soon evaporate into faint, forever fading hues. Just wait until life starts to happen to this poor son of a bitch. Soon it will be his turn in the barrel. He won't get paid enough at work. People will disagree with him. Relationships won't work out. People will cut him off on the freeway. Life will begin to annoy him so much as it annoys some of us. Then he will know stress like we do. He will wish he could just catch a fucking break for once. He will run like hell to the nearest noon meeting. Was that you?
That was me for the first two years of my sobriety. Yeah. I mean, that was how I lived, for sure. I was not experiencing the problem. But I wasn't doing what's in that book. Not really.
In the big book.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it kind of drives home. It's like, I've heard people, say, well, I don't find this program working very well. And it's like, well, are you working it?
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know anybody who's doing the same things that I'm trying to do who's not happy and sober.
Yeah. And you said you have 35 years.
I have 35 years this October. Yeah.
Yeah. That's congratulations. Now, when you got into recovery, would you have ever pictured yourself writing a book like this?
Oh God, no. I mean, I couldn't read when I got sober.
Yeah.
No, I mean, not even, no. I wish I had an answer, but no, I could not imagine.
Now when this book came out, what was the initial response after it came out from people that weren't in your circle?
Well, to my surprise, the initial response was a lot of people writing to me privately saying, thank you so fucking much for writing this. They would say, are you in Florida? Are you in the Connecticut Friday night meeting? Are you at my meeting in England? Are you part of the Sunrise Fellowship in San Diego? It's like instantly there was so many people writing to me who just got it, and it was helping them because it was what they were seeing all around them.
Yeah. Wow, amazing. Now, can we flip the coin? Was there any blowback on it?
Oh, I get blowback on a pretty regular basis, but I always expected that. It doesn't matter to me. Not everybody's going to understand it at all, and that's perfectly fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just don't think about it. I think about people who are like, oh my God, I got this from my sponsor, or, we read their meditations book in the morning, and it just makes things so much clearer and so helpful. And I just try and be all there.
Yeah. Yeah. Now that you have the Sarcastic Daily Meditations too.
I have that one, and I have more Sarcastic Daily Meditations, and I'm going to write another one called Just for Yesterday.
Just for yesterday?
Yeah.
That's great. Do you know when that's coming out?
No, not yet.
Not yet. Okay. And what's this one here? Now, I do not have this one. I have Sarcastic Daily Meditations, but I don't have this one. It says books by this author. The other one says the first 2 columns of a 4th step, 365 daily affirmations that won't help you one bit.
Yeah. It's just a resentment every day to read as an affirmation.
What?
It's just like the first 2 columns of an inventory, which are just not the searching fearless moral inventory, not the good stuff. It's just the trash.
Yeah. Okay, so it's the problem.
Yeah, it's just the problem. It's just stuff that won't help at all.
Oh yeah, that's fantastic. And
look, grab that one.
I'm gonna have to. I didn't even, it's weird. Like I started flipping through this more as I've glanced over it. I haven't read it completely thoroughly, but I've read some really key parts in this book. But I never read that back page where it said what else you have, and now I've got to get that book.
Let me read I have a copy of that right here.
Awesome.
I'm gonna send it to you.
Thank you.
The date today.
Today is the 11th.
Today's the 11th of. Let's see. All right. 10th grade. I'm resentful at my 10th grade math teacher. Forget his name. The cause: made a scene when weed fell out of my backpack, and it wasn't even mine.
Oh my god! Oh, that's great. You know what?
I'm resentful at cashier with purple hair. The cause: accused me of smoking pot in the bathroom, and it wasn't even true a little bit. Pot is 100% legal, by the way.
There is so much packed into those 2 little sentences, like justification and everything else.
I'm resentful at God again. The cause: always make sure I'm in the wrong place at the wrong time, in the wrong relationship, making the wrong decision in the wrong car with the wrong drugs.
That's fantastic.
Thank you.
Oh my god! Wow. Was now, which was harder for you to come up with, the Sarcastic Big Book or this book?
I mean, their Sarcastic Big Book was just it just wrote itself. It was just kind of writing what happened, but this one was just kind of fun. I was trying to some of it's ridiculous, a lot of it's ridiculous, but this one, I don't know, it was fun. Let's see. I'm resentful at everyone on the planet because they're stupid and annoying because they treat me like I'm an individual.
Oh, wow. That is amazing.
Thank you.
That is so amazing. I wish I had my Sarcastic Daily Meditation with me, because the one from this morning was fantastic. So on the back of the Sarcastic Big Book here, it says Clay F. is the author of the Sarcastic Daily Meditations, the first 2 columns of a 4th step, 365 daily affirmations that won't help you one bit. The author's name, Clay Feet, stands for feet of clay, meaning without God, I am nothing. I have never heard that before. Can you tell me how that came about?
Yeah, so Mike, who was the man who took me through the steps in a non-linear way that I was talking about, really changed my life. He used to write to Alcoholics Anonymous World Services, and he would always sign his letters to them "Feet of Clay." And I said, "Why do you do that?" And he told me that it just means without God, I'm nothing. My feet are made of clay. And so that's the name I use to protect, Alcoholics Anonymous and my anonymity, and also just to, to say that exact same thing, to like, I'm shit without God. It's all God.
That is, Clay, that's really beautiful. That's, I've never heard that before. And so, so with this book, the Sarcastic Big Book second edition, how long has this been out?
I think it's been out for a couple of years now. Yeah.
Okay.
It came out.
Okay. Awesome. And so I got mine over Amazon, and that's where you sell these, or is there a website?
They're on Amazon, and if if you go to sarcasticbigbook.com, there's links there, but it's all through Amazon at this point.
Awesome. Now is the Sarcastic AA book Instagram yours also?
Yes.
That is great. Those have some of the greatest memes.
Thank you.
What has been one of the most rewarding experiences you've had with that Instagram page?
For me, it's the people I've met as a result of it. It's the people that I've met. What happened was, when the Sarcastic Big Book came out, my wife said, you should also put your real message out there as well. Mm-hmm. And that's why I did the podcast. And podcast is, the podcast is the reason I've met some of the most important people in my whole life now. And so Instagram has led me to these incredible, meaningful, permanent relationships. And I think that's been the best thing about it. Just aside from the fact that I feel so much, I feel so connected with so many people about these things. I mean, the people that will contact me and reach out to me, that I'm able to bond with and relate with, and it just makes all this feel very purposeful, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful experience.
Yeah. So you have a podcast too.
I do.
Okay. What's the podcast name?
The podcast name is Recovery Radio on KMP3.
Okay. And so where all can you stream that from?
Everywhere. I mean, it's on wherever you get it. Wherever you listen to podcasts, it's there. Recovery Radio Podcast on KMP3.
Awesome. I'm going to have to check that out. I had no idea that you did a podcast too.
I do. And it all came from the Sarcastic Big Book, and the Instagram was because of the Sarcastic Big Book, and then the podcast was because of the Sarcastic Big Book. And it's just been a real incredible whirlwind of an experience. Awesome.
Before we go, a couple quick other things here. I have a couple of questions from two of my friends that are listeners for you, and they're big fans. So one is Boston Greg. He turned me on to you, and he says, and his question is kind of like a three-parter. So I'm going to read you what he sent me. It says, why be so sarcastic about a serious topic with a question mark? Is it because at its core, the alcoholic condition is a dark comedy in ways, or because part of the healing process is being able to laugh at ourselves and others and find some comic relief in our collective situation? I think alkies tend to be wrapped pretty tight, even in recovery. And I think it's good medicine to not take ourselves so seriously all the time. As the song goes, if we all couldn't laugh, we would all go insane.
Right. I mean, yeah. If somebody says to me, you should be of service, my brain is just like, don't tell me what to do. Mm-hmm. Why are you? But if I say to you, don't be of service, you shouldn't be of service.
Yeah.
You should not. And then my brain's like, but shouldn't I?
It's kind of like, I heard a speaker one time say, it's like my alcoholic mind, it's if you tell me to go right, I'm going to go left with an attitude.
I just think that's human nature. I think that is really, really, really healthy and spiritually sound to make fun of myself and not take myself so fucking seriously.
They're awesome. Awesome. Yeah, it's okay. And so Lindsay, my friend Lindsay, we'd just done an episode together and we were kind of laughing about some of the memes that you have up, and we were scrolling through at them while we were in our podcast. And it says, and she says, I've gotten a lot of flack from people who find the memes degrading to recovery. What is Clay's message to these folks? And please let them know I'm a huge fan.
Stop following.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I mean? Like, it's just so weird. It's like somebody following Taco Bell and then complaining about the food, and then I don't like tacos. It's like don't follow it.
If you don't like Taco Bell, then don't eat Taco Bell.
What's wrong with you? If you find it degrading, go somewhere else. Not everybody finds it. It's not degrading. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you think it is, go away.
Yeah.
You're not a captive audience.
Yeah.
That's what I'd say to those people. I mean, I get hate mail, like I hate women, I hate recovery, I'm not really sober, I worship the devil. I mean, just if you could think of it, I'm accused of it, and I don't care.
Yeah. Well, that doesn't sound like it's acceptance on the part of these people either. Like, why do you look at it and get worked up? And
I don't understand following an account or going on Instagram to look for things that offend me. I mean, the entitlement. I should be able to go on Instagram anywhere and not be offended by anything.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah, she's, yeah, she was, she says that, that she had gotten flack from people like that. And it's, I've sent your memes out to other people and we always have a good laugh. And I haven't had that, but obviously somebody had an experience with that.
Oh, I'll get messages that are like, do you know that recovery is serious?
What?
And I'll be like, yeah, I do know that. Yeah.
Yeah, recovery is serious, but at the same
You
time,
know, somebody wrote to me and said that, do you know people actually die from this? And I'm like, yeah, I do know that.
Yeah, but that all goes back to 132. Again, if newcomers could see no joy or fun in their existence, they wouldn't want it.
I mean, here's where I ultimately land with all this. I don't want to hurt anybody. I don't want to offend anybody.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing this from love, and I want people to feel lighter.
Yeah.
And there's nothing more to this to me. If somebody's not there, I also appreciate and respect that. I could not laugh at myself for a long time. I was very tightly wound when I got sober. I misunderstood. I mean, I'm positive I'm still misunderstanding things and still fucked up now. And I'm just not in a position to judge anyone ever for anything. That's where I land on all of this.
Wow. That's even at 35 years.
Oh, especially at 35 years.
Yeah.
I'm not in the position to say anything about anybody. I get it. If you're offended, I get it. If you're not beautiful, everything's perfect. I get it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, she had an important other question for you, and it's what is your message to the newcomer? And I think that is always, because every episode that I end up doing on here, we always end like what do you got to say to the newcomer, because they are very important. And we're, and they're the most important person. Like, so what is your message to the newcomer, Clay?
My message to the newcomer would be, from this moment right now, you never have to drink again, one day at a time for the rest of your life. Relapse does not have to be a part of your story. From this moment on, it is 100% possible to get and stay sober for the rest of your life. And if you forget every single thing that I've said, and if you remember that, then perfect, because that's the truth. And I think anybody who implies anything other than that is not telling you the truth.
That's incredible. That is very powerful. And it's very honest too. So, well, Clay, oh, go ahead.
No, that's it. I'm done.
Oh, okay. Well, Clay, first off, thank you. In closing, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to talk to a guy that you don't know in AA and to talk about the Sarcastic Big Book and your other books. And thank you so much for bringing so much joy, not only to my recovery, to my friends' recovery, but other people's recovery. Thank you so much for your service.
I mean, what you're saying really reaches me, and I really appreciate it. I'm not just saying it. I'm honored that you asked, and I'm going to have you on my show if you're down.
I would absolutely love to be on your show at any time, anywhere. And that's the thing I've learned. Like who am I to choose like what kind of service that I do? I believe that's in God's hands.
I agree with you.
Yeah, it's Clay. Anytime you want to talk, I'm here to do service for you in any kind of way.
Likewise. We'll just definitely stay in touch. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. Before we go, the recovery band's going to take us out. Are you ready for some funk?
Oh, yeah.
All right. That one funk song they know. Kick it, boys. Yeah, you like that.
Yeah.
And hold on. Here's another ego boost. The studio audience.
So much. So fucking much.
Well, Clay, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks. Yep. Goodbye, everyone, and be well.